Whether you like it or not, you see around 6,500 ad creatives every single day. So, what separates the ones that you actually end up purchasing from and the ones that you don't even remember existing?
But before we answer that, we need to first find out what the three main goals that you need to be trying to accomplish are when creating ads. And the very first goal that you need to have when creating your ads is to grab attention. Okay, so if you've ever driven on the highway, you've probably seen a billboard like this one right here or this one over here, where they're entirely designed to just grab your attention. That's their only goal. And how this Barbie movie one does it is bright hot pink with no other information on it except for the date that the movie is being released. And then for this Buc-ee's one, it is the iconic Buc-ee's logo just upside down. Now, these both use a three-step emotional process that catch your eye, then they leave you confused or intrigued, where this one is leaving you confused. Why is it bright pink? What is happening July 21st? Or why is it upside down in this example? And then it causes you to have to do your research. So here you're going to see, oh, that's just the Buc-ee's logo, and they just got my attention by making it upside down. Or for this one, you're going to look up on your phone what is happening July 21st, and it will then take you to the Barbie movie. And these are just specific real world examples, but there are three key pillars that you need to follow for attention grabbing. The first one is pattern disruption, the second one is curiosity creation, and the third and final one is consumptive emotion generation. So let's first get into pattern disruption. And to understand this in the way that we're going to be talking about it, you first need to understand that 70% of global ads are online ads, leaving only 30% to be things like flyers, billboards, posters, sporting event ads like at the stadium, etc. And that other 70%, which is the big majority, are online ads on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Snapchat, YouTube, Google, X, ESPN, anything that's online. And then the average screen time in the US is 4 hours. This blue here represents the average screen time, where it was at 2 hours and 30 minutes back in 2014. And in 2020, which is 5 years ago, it was at 3 hours and 50 minutes. So now it might be at something like 4.5 hours. And when you're online for this long, and when a big group of people are online for this long, your subconscious is going to begin creating patterns for you. And one of these patterns is swiping as soon as you see an ad. So these ads, they look pretty basic. They look like maybe the other 100 ads that you've seen this week, just binging social media. When you see one of these ads, you're just going to swipe because you don't want to handle, no one cares about an ad essentially. And the thing about pattern disruptions is when a pattern is interrupted completely, the person is left without a next step in their thought process or behavior and naturally opens up to whatever next step is offered to him or her by the situation. And in short, what this simply means is the person becomes highly influenceable. And you want your customers to be in a highly influenceable state so that they'll be more likely to purchase your product or service, etc. And now that we've gotten pattern disruption covered, we can move into the second pillar, which is curiosity creation. And this is probably the most simple one on this list, but it is nonetheless very important. It's essentially that curiosity equals continuation. So the more you can keep your customer or lead curious throughout your sales process, the more likely they're going to be to continue with you. So if there's something like intriguing about your ad creative, suddenly they're going to continue through your ad creative onto your landing page. And then if there are things that are keeping them curious or intrigued within your landing page, they might continue to the sign up form or the sign up sheet, etc. And this graph essentially represents exactly that. So curiosity is directly correlated, or it's a direct correlation with the likelihood for your customers to continue with you. So the more you can keep your customers curious, the more their likelihood to continue with you rises, vice versa for when it falls. And yeah, that's really all this one is. It's pretty simple, but it is very important, and you need to get it right. Now, the third pillar is consumptive emotion generation, where if you don't know what that is, it's any emotion regarding consuming. So in your customer's mind, it could be them thinking, I want to buy this, or I need this, or this would benefit my life, or I need to buy this for a friend, anything related to consuming. And there are two primary ways to create this emotion for your customer. The first is to utilize FOMO, and it's just where a single individual is influenced by a big group of individuals, whether this big group is online or maybe even their friends in real life. And it's when the big group is either saying great things about a product, service, or community, or this person just knows that a lot of other people have already bought this product. So when this person, let's call them person A, realizes that this big group right here has bought a product, they're naturally going to be more enticed to also buy that product because people naturally follow the crowd. Same goes for when person A hears that these people have said great things about a product, they're again going to be even more naturally enticed to then want to go through and purchase that product. Now, the next way is to just be biased, and it might sound kind of immoral, but if you really think about it, marketing is just being biased towards your product or towards your service or whatever you're offering. So it's basically just making it seem like life is going to be better if the person has your product compared to if they don't. So here, the customer is going to think that if they have this tile and grout cleaner, their tiles will be cleaner. Or here, if they don't, their tiles will be more dirty. So they're naturally going to be more enticed to buy the tile and grout cleaner. And these are just the two primary ways to create consumptive emotions in your customer's mind. And this is the entire attention grabbing process.
Now that we've got the first one covered, the second goal that you need to be paying attention to when creating your ads is to communicate the value that you're offering quickly. So, conveying value in an ad is a relatively simple and straightforward thing to do, but it nonetheless has to be done correctly for it to actually benefit the performance of your ad creative. So let's first understand some things. First off, the median gaze time is around 0.7 seconds globally across online ads. And if you don't know what gaze time is, it's really simple. It's just the amount of time that someone sees your ad. So let's say they're scrolling on their phone. The amount of time that they see your ad once it pops up on their feed before they continue scrolling is the gaze time. The amount of time that they are directly looking at your ad creative. That is the only amount of time you have to convey your value that you're offering, which is not that much. And that's exactly why it's incredibly important to be able to convey the value quickly. So let's first do a little comparison between creative A and creative B. Right off the bat, which one of these creatives can you see exactly what they're offering quicker? It's probably creative B, because you can see lawn trimming right here, which is the service they're offering. It is the biggest thing on this ad creative. Whereas over here, yeah, it shows services, but it doesn't go into depth at all about what those services are. So when someone is scrolling through their feed and all they see is services, they're not going to really want to have to go in depth to see what you're offering when you're not even showing them. Creative B over here, it does a really good job of showing the broad service that they're offering, some smaller details written in a smaller font below, and then a few more specifics on those services that they're offering, followed by a clean and simple, non-cluttered call to action. Whereas over here, there's a lot of clutter on the screen overall, and they don't go into depth where they need to be going into depth on what they're offering. In this little section, it shows who we are, a 3-person team. That doesn't really matter in an ad creative. You just need to be showing what you're offering, why your offer is better than other people's offers, and where they need to go to receive this offer. And the reason we're discussing this is because cluttered ad environments can reduce the gaze time, which we just talked about, by 37% estimated. And this is important because it can be pretty fun sometimes to just add some extra elements or icons to your ad that you know aren't going to directly benefit the ad's performance. But here we can see that it can actually be pretty detrimental to how well your ad will perform. And then cluttered ad environments don't just reduce the gaze time, but also the recall by 20%, which is how frequently someone remembers your ad and remembers it later in their day. So if people aren't going to look at your ad as long, nor remember it as long, you're obviously going to want to go for a less cluttered approach. First off, you need to make the important stuff big and bold. And this means that within your ad creatives, there should be a natural visual hierarchy, meaning that the most important stuff should be in the biggest font, and it should gradually decrease to the least important stuff or the things that don't need to be as big. So let's see. With creative A right here and creative B, which one do you think it does a better job of this? This one you can see exactly what they're offering, a few more specifics on what they're offering, and then some other big text down below shows the actual offer that they're trying to give you, the discount. Whereas over here, it is all around the discount and how great their service is, but you can't see what they actually do until you come all the way down here where it then tells you that they're the best barbershop in town. So it's pretty clear that this one does a better job of conveying the value that they're offering quickly, while nonetheless not ignoring the offer that they're doing. Whereas Creative B over here goes far too in-depth on the discount and not enough in-depth on what they're actually offering to you. And next, you need to make the benefits within your ad creative visual and not just text written on the screen. So instead of just writing, transform your skin in 30 days to reverse your age like magic, you need to show them visually what they could look like with your product. So here you can see that it shows a nice before and after of the products that they're offering. Whereas if this was just text written on the screen, sure, it might be telling them the same thing, but the customer looking at that ad isn't going to be able to visualize the benefits as well when it's text instead of an actual image or before and after. And then finally, you need to anchor your promises with fast proof. And this one's super simple. It could just be things like review badges, Yelp reviews, Google reviews, anything, just positive testimonials, or just trust badges like this. And these are just quick things to kind of reinforce that you are legit and that you're offering something legit to them. And it's a good way to build extra trust with outbound customers relatively instantly without having to take up more time that should be used to convey your actual value. And yeah, that's a pretty straightforward way to convey your value quickly in your ad creative. Finally, now that both of those are out of the way, the last main goal that is a must need for creating ads is to drive action, also known as your CTA. We're going to go over something that is hugely important and can kind of make or break your ads, but also something that is extremely overlooked in the online ad space, and that is driving action. But it's not just driving action, it's driving action with an optimized and well-structured call to action. So let's take a look at these two ad creative examples, one with a optimized and well-structured call to action, and one with a poorly built call to action. And the thing is, let's say Creative B over here theoretically had a much more well-structured and better designed ad creative in the previous two criterias, which were conveying value fast and grabbing attention, but its CTA was poorly built. Even if Creative A had a much worse designed ad creative in the previous two things we discussed, it could perform just as well, if not better, as Creative B, just because it has an optimized and well-structured call to action, and that just goes to show how important it is. So let's go over what makes a good call to action. First off, you want one clear next step, and as you can see in this ad creative, there is simply one clear next step, and there's no confusion for the customer on where they should go next. And then also here, the CTA is designed to seem low friction, so register now makes the customer believe that once they click that button, they can get started right away. This CTA does a very good job of making everything seem instant and really low friction. And then finally, this CTA does a really good job of being emotionally charged. You get this right here, which says that the offer that they're offering is expiring on the 21st, which implements FOMO, or the fear of missing out, which we discussed in the very first grabbing attention segment. This is what a really well-designed and well-structured and optimized CTA looks like within an ad creative. Now, if we look at the opposite, first off, right off the bat, we can see that there are two options for where they should go next, which kind of creates confusion and ruins the clarity that could be there. And then also there is some friction that the customer is going to be expecting, because instead of get started with us right away or register now, it shows fill out this form, which instantly tells the customer that there's going to be another step of friction and that they're not going to get what you're offering right away, which is what people want. They want things to happen very quickly. And then finally, none of these CTAs are emotionally charged. It's just the basic text of register online and fill out the form, which are two very generic examples of CTA text that you don't want to have on your ads. So yeah, here you can see what a good CTA looks like that is perfectly optimized, and the opposite. And that's really all you need to know to build a solid CTA and an image ad. That is all I have for you guys today. I appreciate you sticking around till the end. That means you have a solid attention span and that you'll actually be able to focus on things for more than 5 minutes, unlike most people these days. But I do have a free Discord you can join. There's no upsells or anything going on in there. There's hundreds of members in the online business space, as well as many tools that you can use for your own business that I've added in there and built myself. They're completely free. And yeah, I just hope this video was somewhat helpful, and have a nice day.